I never really felt like part of the family, not in the way people expect. Since I was little, I was the quiet shadow of my older sister Katie, the star, the porcelain doll adored by everyone, always surrounded by sparkle, spotlights, and smiles that looked rehearsed in front of a mirror. I was the opposite. I liked the silence of libraries, the smell of old books, the volunteer work I did on weekends. My life was never about impressing anyone, just about doing what I believed was right. Maybe that's why, when Katie's wedding invitation arrived, my first instinct was to leave it on the kitchen table and pretend it wasn't there. But my mom insisted. She said I had a duty to go, that even if I wasn't treated as an equal, I was still family. So I put on the best thing I had, a simple blue dress I'd sewn myself months earlier for a library event. I had no jewelry, no fancy shoes, no professional makeup, just my presence. And deep down, the foolish hope that, since it was such an important day, maybe Katie would see me differently. The moment I arrived at the mansion, I knew I didn't belong in that golden world. The guests barely acknowledged me. Katie's friends, all carbon copies of one another with their cold smiles and stuck-up noses, whispered as I passed. And Katie, well, she made sure I remembered my place. At the reception dinner, she made subtle jokes, the kind that sound harmless to someone who doesn't know the backstory, but cut deep if you do. Comments like, "It's so lovely when people are happy with so little." I tried to disappear among the glasses and flower arrangements, but there was nowhere to hide. I was the out-of-tune note in the orchestra she conducted to perfection. And yet, something strange was happening. Every time I looked up, I caught Michael, her fiancé, staring at me. Not with disgust. It was a look I couldn't quite read. In that moment, I didn't understand why. I just wanted to disappear. I felt like I was only there to serve as a convenient contrast. The real sister, no filters, no luxury, so everyone could see just how far Katie had come. And as the music played and the toasts began, something inside me started to crack. It wasn't anger exactly. It was exhaustion. Tired of being invisible, even when shoved into the spotlight just to be mocked. That night, even before the actual ceremony began, I knew. If I stayed there any longer, a part of me would be lost forever. The ceremony hall was massive. Every corner of the mansion seemed designed to impress. Everything sparkled, from the marble floors to the golden-framed mirrors reflecting the lights. The music began to play, and everyone stood up to watch Katie walk in. She looked like she had stepped out of a bridal magazine, flawless, theatrical, center stage in a spectacle crafted just for her. She smiled as if it were a runway, not a wedding. While the priest gave his speech, I drifted off in my thoughts. I looked around and realized I didn't belong in that world. Not out of envy. I never wanted that kind of life. But because in that setting, my existence served only as contrast, a reminder of what failure looked like in their eyes. Then came the solemn question, does anyone object to this marriage? No one moved. Of course not. I didn't expect otherwise. I quietly got up, ready to leave before my pride could be shattered any further. But before I could take a single step, I heard something that froze me in place. Michael's voice. His words cut through the air like a blade. He couldn't go through with it. He said it was wrong, that his heart didn't belong to the woman standing at the altar. The room went silent. People looked around, confused. Some chuckled nervously, thinking it was some kind of joke. But when he turned and looked straight at me, everything became clear. He walked toward me. My instinct was to run, but I couldn't move. There was something in his eyes, maybe truth, that held me still. He said he saw me, that he'd always seen me, that even surrounded by all that luxury, he'd found in me what he had been searching for the most: kindness. While I struggled to make sense of it all, I heard Katie's scream. It tore through the room like thunder. She was shocked, furious, devastated. She called me a traitor, spat words I couldn't even absorb. but nothing hurt more than the weight of doubt inside my own heart. Was this real? Or was I once again being used as a pawn in some cruel game? I stood there, frozen. I don't remember the faces. I don't remember the looks or the exact sounds in that moment. Everything around me became a blur. The words, so unexpected, were still echoing inside me. He wasn't just defending me. He was choosing me. Me, the invisible sister, the awkward guest, the extra in the performance that was my own family. But my mind was battling. A part of me screamed it was too risky, that it could all be a lie. Katie was losing it, being held back by two of the groomsmen. Could have backed off, walked away with dignity, gone back to my quiet life, slowly rebuilt my pride. But something inside me, maybe an old scream I had buried for years, finally woke up. For the first time, I decided to listen to myself. I took his hand. It wasn't some grand gesture or romantic. It was an act of liberation. I walked with him toward the exit, feet steady, heart racing. Behind us, the sound of criticism, of protest, of phone cameras clicking, trying to catch the scandal. I remember the breeze outside. The cool air hit my face like a rebirth. Michael didn't say a word. He just kept holding my hand. Michael stood by me, even as his own name was being dragged through the mud. And in that heavy silence, we found something deeper than passion. Purpose. Michael had always wanted to do something that mattered, but never knew how to escape the golden prison he lived in. I was the key. Together, we started small. We visited shelters, offered help quietly. And there, far from the cameras, we found a new kind of happiness, not the kind that shines on social media, but the kind that fills your chest. I was still scared. Still asked myself, at times, if any of it was real. But when I saw the smiles of the people we helped, when I saw Michael discovering who he really was outside Katie's shadow, I started to believe that maybe everything had happened exactly the way it was meant to. Sometimes, the truth only shows up in silence, when the spotlight finally fades, when the noise dies down, and all that's left is what you truly built. That's how I knew my life had changed, not because of praise, but because of peace. After the scandal, we pulled back. Social media turned me into a target for weeks. Every move, every outfit, every appearance became fuel for ridiculous theories. They called me a gold digger, unstable, even manipulative. Michael changed too. He was no longer the man in the flawless suit with the rehearsed smile. I saw something rare in him, someone willing to unlearn what vanity had taught. The nonprofit we started was born from our desire to rebuild with meaning. And little by little we grew, not through fame or fortune, but through trust. Every life we touched became a brick in the foundation of what we were building. Meanwhile, Katie, she tried to destroy us. She sued Michael for breaking the prenup, tried to drag me down with her, claiming I had seduced him, manipulated everything. But the truth has a way of surfacing. During the trial, documents began to emerge, evidence that she had been funneling money from charity campaigns she promoted online. Funds meant for shelters were paying for parties, surgeries, and luxury trips. Everything fell apart. Sponsors pulled out, brands cut ties. Even her own followers started to question her. I watched it all in silence, not with joy, but with a strange calm. For years, I wondered if justice even existed. That day, I realized, it does. Sometimes it takes a while, but it comes. Michael looked at me with a kind of admiration. And for the first time in my life, I started to see myself through his eyes. The wounds were still there. Scars don't disappear overnight. Time passed. The scandal, once the center of so many conversations, became just another story from the past. People get tired of other people's drama, and honestly, that's a relief. Life, however, didn't stop. The nonprofit kept growing. We started reaching other cities, built partnerships, opened support centers. Michael had transformed, not just in his actions, but in his core. I remained quiet, grounded. One day, while organizing a donation drive for a remote community, I got a message from an unknown number. It was Katie. She didn't apologize. I wasn't expecting that. But something in her words hit me. She said she had lost everything. Her friends disappeared. Fame turned to dust. The brands that once backed her now pretended they didn't even know her. She told me she was working as a receptionist at a beauty salon in a small California town. That, for the first time, she understood what it meant to live without applause, without flattery. And in the silence that followed her fall, she started thinking about me. At the end of the letter, she wrote something that stayed with me. For years, I thought the world revolved around me. Today I see you were the only steady thing in our family. You were the root. I was just the shine. Maybe one day she'll reach out. Today I live in a simple house with big windows where the sunlight walks in without asking. Michael, and I drink coffee on the porch, surrounded by silence and soft laughter. The past is still there, but here, in this moment, there is peace.